It's your baby.
Yes, sir. So meal delivery is going well. We finished this week yesterday. All meal deliveries for ready and wait for. I think Abel was proposing that we do some meal deliveries for them and some grocery deliveries to the college, but we're still waiting to hear back from both of those parties. We are moving ahead with ramping up our service to begin next week to go back to Saturday service.
Okay. Any comments or questions or discussion from Larry? So everything seemed to be going great, huh, Larry?
Yes, sir. One thing we did notice this week when I was paying very special attention to the number of full buses is that it seems very appropriate for us to be going to Saturday service because we were getting a lot of full buses this week.
All right. Very good. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, all right then. If there are no other questions, I guess we need to go ahead and move to item B.
How about, Larry, why don't you talk about bus cleanliness and are we having any overcrowding conditions? Just go a little more detail in operations so that the committee understands what's going on the street, if you don't mind.
Not a problem. So for bus cleanliness, we had a supervisor start on Wednesday night. And what he does is he does two things. He's out there and he is managing and supervising what's on the service line. And then as they're coming off the service line, he is checking off on every bus to make sure that they are ready for service. And that seems to be going very well. It's just another level of oversight to make sure that we are sending out clean and sanitized buses for our passengers.
Unknown participant is now joining.
That's imperative that we get those buses cleaned and sanitized. So like I said, that supervisor just started on Wednesday night, and that will continue for the duration of this, this pandemic that we're in. Having that supervisor every night, just assuring that those buses are going out as clean and safe as can be. In terms of overcrowding, the operators, what they call in full buses, we're limiting the number of passengers because we're promoting social distancing on the 35-foot to 16 people and the 40-foot to 21 people. So once they're full, they're not picking up anymore. And then we have also been sending out extra buses when we know that there are, full buses on certain routes like 701. We just to make sure that we're not leaving people behind.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Any other points or questions to Larry? Larry, I'd like to ask you one. I just asked just one general question.
Sure.
How are we notifying these people that how are we notifying riders that we're going to Saturday service? Is that a part of your duties or what?
No, it's Mr. Leaks. It's actually mine.
Okay. All right. Any other points, Larry?
Yeah, I'll let's have Pam answer your question, Mr. Leaks, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll just kind of morph into item B then. Larry, thanks, but we're still we're doing B and A together. Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead, Pam.
Yes, sir. So we communicate to the public several ways. We put out a massively distributed press release, which goes to all media outlets. We also put the information in Transloc, so people who have the app can see it in real time when we send that information out. And we also distribute it through social media, and we boost those posts in order to get as wide a population of people that see the information as possible. And then the other thing is we also put it on the buses.
Okay. That's getting the word out there. But let me ask you, what kind of participation are you getting on social media?
Oh, we have a very robust social media adoption. I'm busy late in the night sometimes answering questions and responding to comments on social media as people see it. And the response as far as how people feel about it has been very positive, and we get a lot of shares on those posts as well. So it's not just going to the people who are seeing the page at that minute, but the people who are seeing it are sharing it with others.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of numbers, because I know they tell me how many friends I have and all that. I don't have but about 20. But what kind? That was a joke. I got okay. But how many? What kind of numbers are we talking about in terms of responses? Do you have an idea?
So our reach is over 1,500. The number of interactions and likes get up into the 300 and 400 range. So, and those are really good numbers. I mean, Merritt, do you have any other insight to add to that?
Yeah, I can actually report on the April stats. May hasn't been reported yet just because we normally do that at the end of the month. But for April, across our social media platforms from Facebook, we actually had 34 new page likes. So that's increasing the amount of people that are choosing to see the information. We had 28 new page followers. Both of those are now at over 1,700. Our total reach, which is our organic posts that Pam and her staff are posting internally, as well as our paid promotions where we're boosting and advertising. The reach from the month of April was over 50,000. And our engagements from organic to paid, which includes likes and comments and shares, was 4,772. And all of that is just for Facebook. For Twitter, we have total followers of 1,000. Our total impressions are 20,000 and engagements 427, again, just for the month of April. On Instagram, we actually acquired 31 new followers in the month of April, which is now at 852. And our YouTube and LinkedIn subscribers and followers stayed about the same. So overall, in the month of April, we saw people engaging with posts go up on both Instagram and Facebook, and we acquired new followers on both platforms in the month of April as well.
Oh, sound like any questions from anybody else?
Well, I was wondering too if you all track what the interactions are on the Midlands Transit Riders Association, because they get a lot of questions and responses there. So, and that's another way both of us that we get information out. So, do you all tune into that also?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Moo, this is Pam. So, John and I both answer questions on Midlands Transit.
I'm aware of that, and that's why I wondered if those got counted into our outreach. Yeah.
We don't count them in as far as tracking things, because I don't know that we have access to their metrics. But I can say that they share a lot of our posts on their page.
Right. Okay, good.
And we get notifications if they tag us, if they've said something about us that we need to pay attention to. So we're responding there as well.
Well, I knew that there was the interaction, and I just didn't know how that fit into the data that we were accumulating. Right.
Yeah, I don't think we have access to their metrics.
I understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else got a question or comment? now's your time. I wanted to ask one thing. What did I want? I wanted to ask about. Oh yeah, the in some areas of Richland County. I don't know about Lexington County. They've got a lot of money over there, but in Richland County, we got people that don't have the internet and they can't get it because it's not available, from what I understand. What are you doing to advertise to these people? Do you do any specific actions to try to reach that segment of the population?
Yes, absolutely. So, most people have access to print media. So we have articles, and we have also had advertising in a lot of the news publications, Millennium Magazine, Panorama, Black News, the state newspaper. So our information goes out there as well. And every time we communicate a service change or something new that we're doing in order to make sure that people know that they're safe, that goes there as well. But then again, to your point, Mr. Leaks, when people enter the buses, there's information right there, right before they get on, that talks about how we strongly encourage them to wear masks, how what we're doing is making sure that we're disinfecting. So, we have that messaging up so people could see it, even if they don't read a newspaper or see a billboard or have access to anything digital.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Pam,
well,
can I offer some assistance as well?
Yeah, sure.
So this is Merritt with Flock and Rally. In addition to the outlets that Pam mentioned, we also are running a lot of radio ads across several different radio clusters. And as soon as we realized at the beginning of April that the messaging needed to be updated from our general awareness campaign, Pam and I quickly updated the messaging, which I'm hopeful that you all have seen, and we deployed that across all of our communication channels, including radio. And so the radio scripts, the radio ads themselves actually are communicating what the Comet is doing currently, as well as the changes to the routes. So that's one great way. That's a very traditional advertising platform that is reaching folks. And also, even though it's not necessarily in our scope of work, I think that Pam is doing an excellent job of getting information out to the media via press releases. And so folks who may not have access to the internet or have a smartphone traditionally and typically can still access local news media, like she said, in the form of print as well as TV and other radio. And so getting that publicity message out there really does help reach folks that may not be digitally connected.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Nobody else? Okay. Well,
in terms of an update, Mr. Leaks, could we just hear where we are now with the testing that we proposed?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Anybody knows anything about testing? I know this is not necessarily a marketing thing, I don't think.
But Leroy, do you mind talking about testing?
Yeah, this is Leroy. Yes, based on our meeting last week and what you sent forth onto the board, once, with that being fully approved, we can move forward as far as scheduling the testing, coordinating that with TransDev.
Okay, so does that really have to wait for board approval next at the special meeting, or didn't we just do that?
No, that was approved.
No, that was approved, yes, today.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. John, on the what do you call it? The schedule, the budget.
Yeah.
I intended to ask about one thing and it slipped my mind. I didn't ask, but look, are we doing anything on these on the screens? Not the screens, or what the protective gear up there for the drivers? We'll be
bringing that forward to another ad hoc committee meeting shortly. We're still getting quotes on that. This is the estimates are still coming into $4,000 to $5,000 a piece for the big buses. We are going to
Mhm.
test one on a small bus for $800, and we'll report how that works on the small buses. And if it works well, then we would need to buy 40 of those or 39 of those for the small buses. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Was that included in our budget today? An estimate of that?
The test for the small bus, yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
But we've done nothing with the big buses yet until we can get those quotes all formalized with new flyer.
Okay. Very good. All right. Any other questions or points?
So in relation to operations, just so that you're aware, the governor did extend the state of emergency to May 28th, and that executive order is in your packet. So consistent with board action, we're not still at a point where we can go to full Monday through Friday service since that state of emergency is still continuing. However, the recent board action authorized our extension to revert back to a enhanced Saturday schedule, which we talked about at the last Ad Hoc Committee meeting. So we are looking to implement that next Wednesday. So what will end up happening is we'll have 30-minute service between 6 and 7 on all of the 3-digit routes. So that's North Main, Farrow Road, Divine Street, Two Nuts Road, Forest Drive, and Broad River Road. We will resume Route 97 service to Batesburg-Leesville every Thursday. Everything else will still continue to run hourly. Soda Cap connectors routes 2, 3, 4 will still remain suspended, as well as since we don't run routes 46 and 74 on Saturdays, those routes will still remain suspended. However, we will still continue the on-demand service for those areas, so those residents are not left out. Route 57 in the L in the Northeast, 96L in West Columbia, Casey, 91 Springdale, Casey, and 47 Eastover, Gadsden, Hopkins will resume Saturday levels of service also on Wednesday. Our goal is to use as many large buses as we can. We are going to have to bring out a few cutaway buses. However, we have identified 6 routes that will put those cutaways on that get very low ridership anyway, so that we're reducing the exposure between the bus operator and the passenger until we can get some form of a shower curtain or barrier installed on those cutaway buses.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else?
And that's it for item A.
Let me ask you one follow-up question. When do we anticipate going back to paying? Will that be for planning purposes? Will that be when the governor ends the emergency? Or will it be when we get barriers? Or what? When do you anticipate?
Sorry, well, when do we go back to charging customers? Is that what you said?
Yeah, to charging customers, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion with this at the board meeting in 2 weeks. In our proposed FY 2021 budget, staff is actually recommending we stay free for the next fiscal year. We believe we have funding to cover that. And in light of what's going on and ridership, we've lost about 37% of our ridership. This will be a good opportunity next year to rebuild the ridership and be prepared in case we have another second wind of COVID-19.
Okay, so some of those funds, the care funds that we got that on that budget we looked at today, you're thinking about using some of those to kind of make up for that lost revenue?
Yes, we will have $6.7 million remaining in that care fund for next fiscal year. So we programmed that into the budget to cover the loss of $2.4 million in fare revenue.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Are you still out, Derek? Hello, Derek?
Yes, I am.
Give us some input, man, because I think, look, I say this is our last item on here, but I think
we would like to do a quick presentation on marketing, if you don't mind.
Say what?
I just wanted to do a quick presentation, if Pam could just go over the presentation on COVID-19 marketing, so you are aware of all the things that we're doing, if that's okay.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the
Good.
point that we got.
Yes, that's the one I sent last night.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you,
Good.
John and Mr. Leaks,
Mhm.
members of the committee. I'm just going to briefly go through the presentation, and it's basically how we responded to a pandemic from a communications timeline aspect. So, pre-COVID-19, we were seeing ridership at an upward trend. We attracted new choice riders. We had greater brand awareness. And then in late February, early March, coronavirus began to dominate the news. And not only the news, but our way of life, our systems, our way of conducting business, and also our service delivery. So one of the first things that we did on March 10th was release a press release. The Comet is working hard to keep you safe on our buses, and it was really geared to create a peace of mind for the public, our riders, and looking at how we can let people know what we were doing. And at that point, I will say we did not realize how quickly things would escalate with the pandemic and how it would affect us here in the Midlands. We talked about the hand sanitizers being on the buses and signs inside of the restrooms, what we're doing in the facilities. The buses at that time were being detailed twice a month to ensure extreme cleanliness, and daily cleaning, in addition to the twice a month, and pest control. That was the message on the 10th. Shortly after that, we saw where things had started to escalate and the schools started closing. One of the things that we did as far as goodwill the week of March 10th through the 17th was we did a community outreach to the young and young at heart, because from a marketing standpoint, all of the things that we had that were going into the schools, our show and tell on the buses, our career development kind of things, presentations that we had doing, they were all canceled. And parents at home were scrambling on how to keep their school-age children occupied, in addition to having to teach them the basics in their curriculum, like, mathematics and English and history and things like that. So we thought that we would do double duty with creating an activity sheet, which was actually already on the plan for us to do, but it came, Flock and Rally actually got it finished right on time to address this communications during a pandemic. We were able to satisfy the need of this people having to educate their children at home, as well as keep Soda Cap and the Comet front and center. And it's a coloring page, a word search, and a connect the dots that we did. And we, it actually kind of went viral. When we put it out there, we distributed it through email. Several of the news outlets put it on their page. Experience Columbia SC had a link to accessing it, and it went out on social media.
Okay.
March 15th was the return of the blog, where John does a comment chat with Midlands Biz. And in March 2020, week of March 15th, the blog went active again, with John also talking about what we were doing to keep people safe up to that point. On the 16th, we really took a harder line as far as what we were doing, saying that, we're taking precautions, and that's the first point of what we did to adjust services. We also took the opportunity to talk about the frequency of the BioClean disinfection of our fleet to nightly, as well as augmenting the cleaning of not only Comet Central to every 30 minutes, but also our other physical assets. We suspended service of the downtown connector, Soda Cap, buses and trolleys that next day on the 17th. And we moved from a normal schedule to a Saturday schedule. At that point, DART was still available with service unchanged. But we also started communicating that fixed route service was limited to essential travel, meaning to work, medical, grocery, and things like that. We were not fare free at that particular time. We were still, I'm sorry, we were still accepting fares. So 2 days later, on the 18th, we started reducing service and talking about that and utilizing the 35-foot and larger vehicles in the fleet to allow for social distancing. We also went fare free at that time. And we've started practicing exit door boarding. Our communications were in addition to the press release that went out, we started putting information on the buses before the passenger got on, which we thought was very important, so they could see before they got on the bus what rules had been changed.
Okay.
So what had started out as brand awareness quickly became a pivot to making the case on why we were even running. So we put out an op-ed why we're running. And at this point, we also strategically modified our brand awareness campaign, as Merritt talked about earlier, to reflect the importance of the comet and the essential nature of public transit. So Flock and Rally renegotiated the change with our outdoor advertising channels, which actually got us more time on the billboards. They changed the digital and print ads, which are running now, which you may have seen, and that are also in your packets. And we changed the messaging on radio. So when we worked with Flock and Rally on the brand awareness assets, we were fortunate to have the riders say in their own words why the comet was vital to their everyday lives. This helped the content flow to naturally reflect the new messaging. For instance, we have the Campbells, saying with making sure they get where they need. We have the nursing student that was part of the campaign, and her billboard reflects transporting essential employees one seat at a time, and she has on her Prisma Health badge. And we also mirrored the public realization that those who work in pharmacies, grocery stores, warehouses, as well as being medical support in healthcare facilities, they were essential, and these people are our riders. And we believe that we sent a very powerful message to help garner public support, and which we have experienced, on why the comet is essential, and it makes sense for us to be running.
Yeah.
On March 31st, we implemented more safety measures in the fight against COVID-19. We closed Comet Central temporarily. We also added alternate seating and no more than 20 passengers to a bus. And we also really enforced one-way travel, which was part of the rules of the road. You can't just get on the bus and just ride all day long. You have to have a destination. So we started really enforcing that, and security helped us with that as well. These messages were pushed out on social as well as in the traditional media and on the buses. Flock and Rally helped us with the signage that we used to make it attractive and compelling for people to see those things. On April 8th, we restored limited soda cap service because we received a groundswell of support, especially through social media channels, for people in the KC West Columbia area saying, hey, we need to get to work, and we work in downtown Columbia. A lot of these people worked at Baptist Medical Center. Some of them are going to Richland, and Soda Cap 1 was their way of getting to the city center in order to go to work. So in light of that, we looked at really focusing on essential workers. March 18th was Transit Driver Appreciation Day, which was overshadowed by news of the pandemic and how many people were affected and how many people were testing positive, how many people were dying, and different things like that. But we felt it really important, to talk about, not just for one day, but to talk about for an extended period of time, why our drivers are our frontline workers. They are essential. They're frontline and they need to be commended. So we started with social media campaign. I had Michael Danzler came in and took pictures of our drivers, and we highlighted the story of a driver every other day for about a month, um, telling a little bit about them, thanking them for their service. They were heroes moving heroes. They were the Comet champions, and we hashtagged that. And we got and that was organic, and we got a tremendous response from that, where people recognized their driver and, said, yes, this person is a wonderful person. We appreciate all they do for us, and really making the case that transit workers are also first responders. We also had what would have been Get On Board Day, which is April 16th, was changed by APTA, the American Public Transit Association, to be Sound the Horn Day, where transit agencies all over the world actually blew their horns at, the vehicles blew their horns at 3 o'clock on that day to show support for transit workers and the importance of public transportation. And we also did that same day. So if any of you would like to see the video from that, I'll be happy to share it with you, in case you didn't see that on social media. So just let me know.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, Pam.
Okay, it's really a beautiful sight. The buses were pulsing and they blew their horns in tandem. And I want to thank Tanisha Gibbons for capturing that for us so that we could push that information out. But I will send it I'll actually send it to the whole board. Is that okay?
That'd be great. I'm just thinking that what we're watching right now, this PowerPoint, I want the whole board to have access to it too.
Oh, absolutely. I don't mind at all.
That'd be great.
Okay. I will send that out right after this. So on April 9th, we talked about our receipt of funding to aid public transportation amid COVID-19, and we talked about the $15 million grant from the CARES Act, and we talked about how we were using it responsibly, and it was for the continuation of the extensive disinfecting and safety measures that were already implemented, and to assist in the procurement of protective gear and additional operations costs that include the reinstatement of furloughed staff. On the 15th, we went to enhance Sunday services, and we really did a deep dive in educating the public. What is Sunday level of service? What does that look like? So we called out what routes were affected by this. And on the reflex, we added dial ride services to some routes like 46, 47, 57L, 96L, really the ones that are out in the more rural areas like Lower Richland and West Columbia, Casey. The rest of the soda cap routes were still suspended, and Blue Bike went into suspension at that time as well. We reinforced to observe social distancing. Essential travel was limited to 20 passengers on the larger buses and 4 passengers on the smaller shuttle buses. So the other thing, I know I'm a little long-winded. Bear with me, I'm almost done.
This is so interesting.
The other thing that we did, and I really have to credit our executive director for really thinking outside of the box, was partnering with Senior Resources and others to provide meals to the elderly. So the partnership helped seniors in Richland County from Gadsden and Hopkins to parts of Irmo and Elgin, where they received 5 frozen, nutritionally well-balanced meals delivered to their homes. And that's something that we're still doing. And it allowed us to bring back, some drivers who had been furloughed because of our reduction in services. And in reimagining those partnerships with food and nutritional services, we're actually exploring expanding that with other entities. We're working on projects even as we speak to help defray some of the food deficiencies and to help people who are living in food deserts to be able to receive nutritional support.
Pam, that is an amazing catalog of work. I'm so proud of what you all are doing.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not finished. I got two more.
I got to the end of my picture, so I thought you were. Sorry.
I got a couple of more. So the other thing was that we instituted a partnership with DHEC, where we received 100 gallons of hand sanitizer and some additional messaging posters to reinforce what we were already doing and what we had already told our riders. Some of the posters you can see at Comet Central. Even though Comet Central is closed, we have them in the windows to encourage people to make sure that they're standing 6 feet apart when they're waiting on their bus, and some other health and safety and wellness messaging to go along with that. And with the enhancement of business support, one of the things that we did was, we recognized that this too shall pass. So we have a partnership with Lake Murray Tourism as part of a promotion with South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism that says, when you're ready, we'll be ready, and dream now, discover later. And it features John on with the soda cap trolley, saying those words and really giving a shout out to our partners such as 5 Points, the Main Street District, the Vista Guild, and people like that, Casey West Columbia. He called out the Chapin 93X, and just really saying, hey, this is not going to be forever. We're going to be here, and when you're ready and when things pass, we'll be here for you.
And where can we access that?
They haven't rolled that out yet. We just
haven't yet. Okay.
Yeah, we just filmed it. I think it was like last week.
Okay.
So I'll find out when the rollout is going to occur, and I'll let you all know as far as that as well.
Great.
So we look at what's next. We're continuing to reliably protect our drivers and our passengers, and we're communicating that daily. And then we're looking at balancing the restoration of services while integrating full safety measures as a normal way of doing business. And I think that's important to let people know that, that we're nimble enough to respond to not only to demand, but to external forces that can literally dictate, how we provide service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, sound like you're doing. You have anybody has any questions? Anyone has questions for Pam?
Well, I'll just reiterate praise for what they are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are. So this year, we understand that ridership is not going to be anything. We know that. And we're hoping, though, this time next year or within 6 months or so, we're hoping that we'll start trying to do some things to bring our ridership back. And I'm sure you guys are working on some specific plans to try to come up with how we're going to fill these buses up once we get this, once we're lifted and we can start doing that. So
yes.
Keep it rolling, keep it going, because that's what drives us normally. But this year, the ridership is not driving us that much. But good job, good presentation. We enjoyed it, and keep up the good work. Anything else from Derek, or either from anything from Derek or Lil, or anybody else? You still around, John?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. You have any wrap-up comments? If not,
I just want to commend our staff for working through the challenging times. The marketing efforts that you saw is a lot, but just wanted to demonstrate that we are doing our best to make sure we keep our riders and our community informed with all of the things that we're doing. And then also to the operations team for being able to be mindful for all of the ever changes that we have to keep making to stay consistent with all these consistent policies and processes that are changing in order for us to live effectively during this pandemic. And the task force, the advisory committee, for you guys taking the time to hear us out every week. And I'm hoping that this is meeting your guys' expectations on what you expect from a transit system during this time.
Yep, I think we're doing a good job, and just keep doing it, and we'll all get through this together. Anybody else? If not, thank you for that presentation, and that brings us down to
Colonel Leaks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. I was a little bit behind. One of the things I really would love for us to see is how we're integrating our testing, not only with our drivers, but eventually we're gonna have to do something. I don't know what that something is, and I just want staff to be aware of this. But the education of the drivers also and the passengers, and especially our current passengers that we have, because we have a base of passengers. Now we're talking about new development, but at the same time, we have to look at who we are and who rides the buses right now, and to ensure that our drivers feel comfortable at any given time with individuals getting on those buses. Because I do believe there will be an apex again in September. That's my discipline. It's biology and chemistry. So I just would like to be in a situation where we just really give opportunity just to start thinking how we ensure our drivers and passengers are safe, and whether it's testing modules or at least testing sites that they're aware of.
That's a good point, Derek. You're making me think about the fact that I know that DHEC is increasing their testing sites, and so that would be additional information for our passengers, and which bus routes might be going to where people could get to the test sites. So that's testing sites. That's a good point.
Yep, that's a good one. I got the test last week. You know what? But after getting that test, I convinced myself that testing is not that important. You know that?
Well, I'll try to change your mind.
I'm gonna tell you why. I got the test. They rammed that rod up my nose with some kind of cotton ball on the end of it, and felt like somebody put Texas heat up my nose. And but when that was over, but the long story, my test came back negative.
Good.
For the moment, I was happy. But then the next morning when I woke up, I thought about, I'd gone to the store that day, the day before, and I might have caught it again.
Yep.
I don't see what good it did. I'm just still scared. John, when I see John from time to time, I don't even shake his hand. He thinks he's stronger than I am. I try to give him a good, strong handshake. I don't even get that close to him anymore. But,
right.
But I'm just saying. So, and this is something for you to think about, John. If we, I'm sure you got a plan for this, but if we test all these drivers and we find out that we got some positives, what's our next step?
That's a very good question.
I can tell you what the public health recommendations are. What DHEC is saying that we need to do is that when we find a positive test, then that person should be put on self quarantine for 14 days, and then DHEC will collect. They're building a workforce of 1,000 people to do this. They will interview what all of the people are that person is come in contact with. Now, the driver, I don't know how they'll handle that, but his close contacts, they'll follow up with them. And so what we do is we get them into that system of where they would be followed through. But what we would need to plan for is for having anybody who tests positive put on 14 days of self-quarantine.
Well, I'm thinking about contact tracing.
Yes, that's right.
If we find a positive over there at the headquarters, or what we don't call that Common Central, what we call the headquarters. We got
Lucius Road.
No, I know, but what's the name? We don't have a nickname for it, because I was thinking it was Common Central at first, but I found out that was down at
the Spirals Regional Transit Facility.
Okay, well, if we find out that one driver down there has been positive, is tested positive, you know, he's messed around. He's talked and shook hands with probably everybody down there. So every driver down there will probably have to go on quarantine.
Well, here's what I think we need to do with that is that when we find that test, then we need to contact the local health department, because they've got teams doing this, and then operate on the protocol that they give us to follow through. Because we don't need to get into the contact tracing business ourselves. We just need to connect them with it.
Well, you know what I'm saying though, if all those drivers down there, they sit in the lounge together. I've gone down there, sat down there and chatted and had a good time. Matter of fact, ate a few meals down there. They all. So what I'm saying, it's automatic that they've seen their fellow drivers, and if we got 100 drivers down there, and that means that all 100 drivers go in quarantine. And guess what? We can't even.
Or what we may need, and I guess what I'm saying is that we need to go on the advice of the experts with what to do with that size enterprise, because what we may need to do is have them come and test all the test the drivers again. You know, but in any case, I just want us to get ourselves aligned with what the official agencies are setting up a system to do, and that we become a part of that.
Okay. Well, John, that's something to think about. You know, I'm sure. I have you look at it. I hear what Lil is saying, but if they find out that one or two drivers are positive, and then they want to quarantine there, who all you been in contact with? He said all these drivers here, and then all our drivers are gone. We won't have anybody to drive the buses. But I'm sure. Huh?
Well, and what I'm saying is that is that's a unique situation in a lot of ways, but it's not in a lot of ways, because it's the same thing that hospitals have run into when hospital staff gets tested and they're positive. So there's a way to handle it, in terms of there's a protocol for that, right?
Okay, well, let me say this, and you bring all good points together. But what I'm looking at is looking at ground zero right now, and looking at if there was a situation where there was an outbreak, what are the mitigating factors to ensure that we don't have a shutdown of our service?
Right.
And I think you have to look at your passengers, and you have to look at your drivers. Now, the drivers will shut down the service quicker than anything else.
Is that what I'm saying?
So Lil and Dr. Colonel Leach, you make a good point. So we have to mitigate the factors where drivers are congregating together. I do believe there are certain areas, there are certain things that need to be shut down to a point where we don't have assimilation so much that we have that possibility. Now, the testing is going to prove itself, but more than anything else, it will allow certain congregating areas to be in a situation where we have that kind of infectious rate or exposure. Then I think we've done ourselves a disservice. So what I'm saying more than anything else is that let's put together the factors that will not expose our drivers. So if it's a situation, Leo,
and you bring up a good point, Derek, is that even though people normally hang out with each other and have their lunch together, that we need to be instituting safe distance procedures within our own building.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's just and the testing will tell us. But if we mitigate it, at least mitigate it to a point where we don't have that, then I think we're in good shape. So
well, I think that taking those preventive steps is good. And then the other part is that what we may need to do with that group that may have been exposed is be monitoring them. This is what the contact tracing does, monitoring them for any early signs of symptoms, and that's when you take them out of service. So
well, I don't think they do that, Leo. I think what they're recommending, if they find one driver down there who's infected, they're going to go around and say, who all have you talked to in the last few days? And he says, and he just say he said 20 drivers in here. I've talked to these 20 people over the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
They want those 20 people to immediately leave the campus and go home and self quarantine. And
well,
so,
that would be the ideal. That would be the ideal. But what the reality may be is that they take extra precaution and get monitored closely for any symptoms.
Okay.
I think this is what the task force is all about. The task force is not looking at something that has happened. We're in a situation where it's tasked to just look at the possibilities and read as much as you can to mitigate us being in that situation. And I think if we mitigate it to a point where we make sure that we have social distance between our drivers, then when that time comes, I don't think we'll be in a situation where we have to shut down everybody because everybody's pretty much mitigated themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
but I think it's worth John and the staff reaching out to the local health department for their testing and contact tracing initiative, and just talk with them about this conversation. And I'd be glad to participate in that. But talk about this conversation and how we're trying to think ahead, and that we're putting in testing for drivers, and help us map out a plan of action for what we do, given what the situation is, and any assistance they can give us in how we might structure things to address what Derek is talking about, and that is, how can we structure our work environment in ways that they are least likely to expose anybody who's each other if somebody's positive.
Okay. All right. Okay, very good. That's something to think about. Anything else that any other ideas we might give John some more work to do?
Right.
Anything? Nothing else?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just think it's a situation where we're not given work to do. I think we're advising the CEO in the best way that we can, so he can get ahead of all the issues.
Well,
in a situation where he can talk intelligently about things and be in a situation where he's not so much reactive, he's proactive. So.
Well,
right. Yeah. Because what we don't want to do is to initiate the testing, and then when somebody says, "Well, now what do? We just throw up our hands." I mean, we ought to have a plan, and I think. Right.
And yeah, that's exactly right. Now, if we had the antibodies test, then we could say, well, I don't know, but we'll be okay. But that is something that we don't want to get out there and test all those people over there, and find out that we close our own self down the next day because we tested them and we get these results back. And they say, everybody over here needs to go self-quarantine. And then...
Right. Well, let's take that a step at a time and start with the experts.
Yeah, one thing about this virus is we are learning so much about this virus, and for us to think that we have it all based on the current facts, because it changes. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we have to be resolute about more than anything else is that the ability to adapt. And that's what I like about this task force, is the ability to adapt and to give John some direction, and John give us information based on the direction we give him, and then we act and we move forward and send it to the right committee. So that's what we. So thank you.
I tell you what,
what we could do, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, why don't we write a plan for how we will test, how will we evaluate, and what our internal processes would be for social distancing within the comment, and let's share that with you guys next Friday, if that's okay.
Right, and John, I really would encourage you to get somebody from the local health department to work with you on that.
Definitely. I will ask our COO if he could reach out to Ms. Taylor from EHEC.
Yes.
She can help us.
See if she
And we'll also coordinate
can
with
match
Trans-
you up with someone. Right.
Yes.
That would be good.
And then we'll also coordinate with TransDev in relation to the development of these processes.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Sounds good to me. Okay. All right. Any other points before we close? Well, okay then. Well, look here. Sure want to thank the committee for participating and having a good time and coming up with great ideas. It's a great committee. I almost want to just trade this committee in for the whole board. We just work together down here. But anyway, we can't do that. So with that being said, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Let's do it.
Let me add one more thing. Let me add one more thing.
Okay.
Just so you know that our general counsel, Ms. Baker, she is a biology chemistry major also, and she can help quite a deal with what we're trying to do here. So
Great. That's good to know. Good.
Okay. Well, we got three chemists. Derek, you're a chemist. I'm a chemist, and Pam is a chemist.
there you go.
So,
and Leo Mood is a chemist also.
No, I'm a public health nurse.
You know what we need to do? We need to get together and come up with a cure for this virus. But I'm not microbiologist. I'm just but anyway, I'll be pumping disinfectants into people. I can make the disinfectant.
I think I got a lot better. I got a lot better grasp of my limitations than you do. If you think we can do that.
Okay. Great, like you say, great meeting. Let's just try to get ahead of this thing. Think differently and think better, and not try to go back to normalcy, but try to do better. Just try to do better.
Yeah. Good.
Right.
Good. Okay. We adjourn.
All right. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
All right, John.
Multiple people are now exiting.